Okay, here we go. Just a second.
Got my COVID shot.
See Yesharim. Here,
I had no idea where it was.
please
I
go
was walking
to
around the
this
neighborhood.
page.
It's one of the symptoms they say that you can have. And I just.
Let's see if this is working. Okay.
Sorry.
Maybe I'll go back.
Go back.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Had a little problem with Zoom for some reason, so I went with live stream on YouTube. So I sent that out, and hopefully people will see my link that I sent, and we'll be good to go.
Here, we're here.
Okay, I'll tell you where we're at right now. We're in chapter 14. I'll get to the Hakdasha in a minute. In chapter 14, Perek Tetvav, near the end, the paragraph that starts with the words V'ha Prishut V'hamin Hagim. It's page 92 in the little version. Okay, I don't see people coming on. Let me just see if people saw this. Message info. Okay, yes, some did. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's start with Hakdashot. Today, as always, the shiur is dedicated in memory of Avigdor Chai Avram ben Meir Tzvi Rachalea. In addition, today also we're learning for Elena's father's yahrzeit, Tzion ben Moshe, the yahrzeit's on Tu B'Av, and her mother's yahrzeit, Sarah bat Avraham, on the 19th of Av. What did I say? I said Sarah bat Avraham, no? Avrum. Sorry.
The Romanian.
Avrum. Okay, thank you. And the Shamot should have an aliyah. And Elena was kind enough to bring her parents' favorite baked goods to the table. So thank you very much for everybody. And her refuah shlema for Yehudit Bat Chana.
Who's
Okay.
that?
It's my client.
Okay. She'd have a refuah shlema. Tov. Okay. We're talking about, it's a relatively short chapter about the different categories, different ways or parts of preshut, abstinence. And we talked about a couple of them already. One had to do with hana'ah in this world, having joy and pleasure in this world and how it's limited. Also, when it comes to halacha, we had an extensive conversation about chumrah versus not taking on a chumrah. Just as a little teaser, Bezrat Hashem on Shabbat Shuvah, it'll sort of be the topic I'll be talking about. It has to do with the idea of things we take on to either that we do only during the Aseret Yemei Shuvah, or we take during the year, and the concept of Chumrah, a little bit we'll talk about. So if you have nothing else to do that Shabbat, you're more than welcome. Unfortunately, there will be no live streaming at the moment at that time. So let's talk about preshut. Preshut, I mean hagim. When it comes to the third one, it has to do with customs and the way a person acts. Now, before you jump on me here, let me translate first, and then you'll see it doesn't sound like it sounds. It means separating yourself from society. It means not being involved in the worldly matters and in things that have to do with governmental matters and things of that nature. Ubitnai, on the condition that you should not go to the other extreme. The Chachamim already told us we should always be involved, and we should be beloved and mixed. There's a lot of ways you can translate that with our fellow man. What is he saying here? Sounds like he's contradicting himself. He says, well, best to do is go, like I've always said, I want to just go to a mountaintop here in Midbar Yehuda and settle in there for a little while and just kind of separate yourself from everything else. He says, no, that's not what it means. It means that you have to find a balance between being involved in community, involved in shul, involved in people's lives and whatever it might be, and making sure you have time for your own brain and your own thoughts. We're going to talk a little bit more about, I'm not going to get too much in depth with that because at the end of the next chapter, I don't know if I'll get to it today, we're going to talk a little bit about that and this book, Bistei Ya'ar, which literally changed my life. We'll talk about that, about the topic of Hipodedut. We'll get to that, Bezrat Hashem. They said, Cherev el habadim v'no alu means a sword for on those who fabricate. What does that mean? It's going to give us a play on words. The word bad, bet dalid, also means material. It also means like boded, alone. So look what he says. Cherev is if it were like a sword, al sonehem shal tamidei chachamim, Shoshvim bad bevad v'oskim b'Torah. There's like a pox on you and all your house. For you, just separate yourself from the community, and all you do is sit and learn and retreat completely into your own little world. Now, that's not a great thing for most people. However, there are yechidim. Some of you have been to the shul in the old city, why does it escape me from right now? Rabbi Weingarten's, the Weingarten family. Oh man, the Yeshiv Court Museum, the small shul. As you walk down the street heading down into the Jewish quarter, on the right-hand side, it's called the Old Yeshiv Court Museum. It's a very small shul. It's not even the size of this room. And you look up to your entrance, I think it's to your left, there's this, what looks like it's an Ezrat Nashim, but it's not. It's a small little alcove. There's no access. There's no stairs. There's no way to get up there. It's just there. And that's where the Kli Yakar sat, the author of the Kli Yakar, right? I hope it was, my mind just may have gone blank, sat and wrote his commentary on it. Why does it not sound right? I have to look up. Wrote his commentary on Chumash and Tanakh. He sat there completely removed. I mean, he was there for davening, but then he stayed. There was no way out. He put a ladder up there, and I guess he pushed it down. He stayed up there for long periods of time, completely isolated. There are people that's how they will focus and how they do their work and how they get their things done. And we all do it to some extent, whether some people disappear into their music or into silence or whatever it might be, whatever works. But that's not how we are supposed to always live. So he says you need to find a balance. You do have to spend time with some good people. Notice he said good people. He needs them for his learning. Notice you can't say, well, I shouldn't be near people. I can't make money. Fine, I'll stay home. I'm not going to work at the makolet. Because I don't want to be near people. No, you have to work. You have to make parnasa. And then afterwards, you should be by yourself. To cling to his God, in order to achieve his the right path and in his work, his true work in this world. This word, in this case, the word avodah doesn't mean work as in working for a living. It means service of God. He tells us three things that we should minimize. How much we talk, and not spend a lot of time on just wasting time and just idle chatter, and not to look beyond your dalet amot. That means, first of all, dalet amot is approximately 6 feet. What does it mean, don't look beyond your dalet amot? Okay, so here, let me finish the sentence and I'll come back to it. Anything similar to this, I'm going to translate this differently that he wrote. You get kind of distracted to the point that you have no time for yourself and for your learning, but you're involved in understanding, hearing about from everybody else. When Yosef HaTzadik was in the pit, we know the Sar HaMashkin, the butler, was taken out, and he's brought before Paro, and Paro has a dream, and then Paro says, I need someone to explain the dream. And the butler goes and wants to tell him that he knows this Jewish kid in the jail, and he says, "Et chata'ai ani maskir hayom." I mentioned today my sin, and then he says, "Paro got angry at me and he threw me into prison, and that's how I know this guy." So I say, "Et chata'ai ani maskir hayom," which is I'm a news junkie. I really am a news junkie. It's not good. I know that. When things are going on, like the worst thing for me was I was making early Shabbat. I would be sitting and talking to Rhonda Friday, and I went home and I went to take a shower, get ready for Shabbat, and just then I get to see this news about the shooting and the assassination and all this stuff. I said, no, I'm making early Shabbat. You can't do this to me because I need to see what's going on. I will check this news report. It's not good. I know that. Besides, not healthy for here or here. It's not good, and I know that. But this is what he's talking about. These kind of things, like your dalet amot, you got to take care of what's going around you. Deal with your family and your friends and your community and your shul and your tzedakah things you're involved in. You don't have to always be looking on the other side. And I'm saying that to me. I'm looking right at me and saying that.
Try 12 steps.
Have I tried the 12 steps? There is, by the way, a book called The 12 Jewish Steps, I believe. It's put out by not Lighthouse Publishing, something Lights. publishing. There are a series of books like that actually. So yeah, I'm gonna try that. Yeah. Hi, Zev. Okay. Anyways, let's continue. These three main sections, which had to do with if you want to be abstinent from the idea of too much pleasure out of this world, and also become a little bit abstinent, so to speak, and step away from things that may make halacha a little bit easier and broader and less black and white, and also the idea of being too involved with people. Says those are the general ideas I want to tell you. I really talked about them very briefly. ואמרתי לך שהפרטים אי אפשר להימסר כי אם לשיקול הדעת, להשאיר אותם על יושר הכלל ואמיתו. Let me use my words in this one. This chapter could have been 1,000 pages long. There's a lot he could have said about this, as he said before. I have a lot of things I could tell you, but basically you got to use your common sense. You have to know yourself. You have to know what are the triggers, in a sense, that will get you off your game, where you're going to get sucked into watching too many. Oh, this YouTube thing popped up. Wait, what's that? That cat looks really cute. Boom, click on that, and then you're off to the races, right? As opposed to, oh, well, I really should go over Parshat Shavua or something. Whatever it might be, we have to know. That's why I'm saying that this section of the book, starting at chapter 11, where it starts really like not pounding everybody, but really getting a little bit starker and harder and more intense. It's the reason we still learn it is because even though he himself says it's for yechidim, for individuals, you still can get something out of it. Doesn't mean you have to go to one extreme or another, but it means to just get some lesson from it. Now, how do you do this? What is it? He's laid out, and this has been his method all along. He tells us what the situation is, then he tells you the rules about it, then he tells you how to acquire it and how to not blow it. How do you acquire it? Tetvav, chapter 15. B'darkei kiniyat ha'prishut. Hine. I lost it. But haderech, how did I lose it? It's the first line of the chapter. Haderech ha'muvchar liknot et ha'prishut hu. The best way to acquire prishut is shistakel ha'adam begriut ta'anugot ha'olam hazeh. You have to look at carefully the inferior quality of the pleasures of this world, ubchitutam mitzad atzmam, and how lowly they really are in and of themselves, v'haraot hagedolot shekrovot v'hivaled mehem, and some of the potential bad things that could happen as a result of that. Okay, before I go further, and he will explain, but let me give you my own explanation. Let's say I always come back to alcoholism because it's a good example in using. Actually, that'd be a great book. I have a bunch of books in my head still I want to write. One of them was a Peyush on Mesilat Yesharim, but from the perspective of couples, like how couples treat each other, married couples especially, and then parent-child. The other I just thought about, you could do one about alcoholism or recovery from addiction through Mesilat Yesharim. There's certain similar principles. Anyways, I don't know why I mentioned that, but just I could let you in on my brain. Okay, I'll move over here. Get away from your dalit. Okay, let's assume for a moment that this was a shot. It's not a full glass. It's a shot of whiskey. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't particularly care for schnapps too much. I don't mind beer. I don't like wine, but schnapps once every couple of years, maybe I'll have one. So for me, to make a shot call and pop one back, okay, feels fine, and then I move on with life. For others, it literally could be deadly. For a person who's been sober for months and takes that shot, that could change their life. They say, look, inkvar azkar. I already did one, I'm going to have 100 more. Where did they have the pleasure? Where was the ta'anug? That little, the shot back, and the feeling they may have for a few seconds afterwards. When you take your favorite food, when you have in front of you, whether it's the salad, the hamburger, the baked goods, and it is, let's see, that's the signal you have to have more, by the way. It's a mitzvah. Nishmat. Where is if you understand, identify the steps, what's happening? You see the food, like, whoa, that really looks good. You smell the food. It smells great if it's something that's cooking or baking. So those are sensual kind of pleasure your mind is doing for you. Where's the actual physical pleasure when you taste the food, right? You chew that, I'll use steak, you chew that salmon patty or that chia seed salad. That'll do it for me every time. And you take that first bite and you go, what is that? No, I'm just joking. This isn't going to get posted online yet. And you take that first bite. For that few seconds that you're tasting the actual food until it actually just goes down your throat into your stomach, that's the window of real, true physical pleasure. That's it. Because technically, if you ate a full steak and a full meal and you're full, whether you ate steak and potatoes and had broccoli and coleslaw and a tremendous chocolate mousse for dessert, and I'm getting you all hungry, it's great. And it's a good thing it's not Tisha B'Av, and you're full. There's no difference at that moment when you're full that if you had eaten too much rice and chia seeds and flax seeds and some salad, you're full. It's not going to have the same effect on your body. Full. So where is the actual window of true ta'anug, of actual real enjoyment? Just those few seconds when you're chewing and the food goes down. It happens multiple times, but it's a short window when you think about it. He's going to explain this. Now, do you have a Chumash Devarim instead of my just going grabbing a?
That one's good.
Makes no difference. Anything, as long as it's the in Hebrew or English. Best of it in Hebrew. Thank you. Yes, no, do. Thank you very much. Okay. In a few weeks, we will get to Parashat Ki Tetzei. This is all basically an introduction to this chapter. Whoops. Ki Tetzei tends to be the parasha when most students come for their gap year in Israel. It tends to be the parasha, if not the first one, then the second one when they first come. And when, in a couple weeks, we're going to say, believe it or not, we're going to bench Rosh Chodesh Elul. And I'm going to get the shivers just thinking about it, which is good. And then when I come to Parashat Ki Tetzei, it also has this memory in my brain of that was my first Shabbat at Shalavim in the 76. And that kicks it, into high gear. This is really happening now. So the first few psukim in Parashat Ki Tetzei, let's read them and translate. Ki tetzei la milchama la'ivecha. When you go to war against your enemy, and they, Hashem, you're victorious, and you take captives. And in that captivity, you find or see eshet yifat toar. How does he translate that? A woman who is beautiful of form. That was a beautiful woman. And he wants her. And you can take her for your wife. What are you supposed to do though? First, you take her to your home. The gilchat rosha, you shave her head. V'astat tziporneha, cut her nails. Ve'sirat simlat shivyah me'aleh, v'yashva bebeitecha. Then she's supposed to basically sit there. Uvachta et avia et ima yerech yamim. She's supposed to sit there and mourn and cry for not being home with her mom and dad. Then you can marry her. Then you can have her. What is that? Is like sounds really, really insane, really strange, really weird, almost barbaric, a little creepy. Rashi famously says, "Lo dibra Torah ela keneged yetzer hara." What's going on here? Was there ever a situation like this? Probably not. Would there ever be a situation? Probably not. I don't mean that there wouldn't be captives in war. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who's going to capture the enemy and then they go on and marry her and all. I'm talking about marriage. I'm not talking about just taking her and sleeping with her. I'm not talking about that. So what's really going on here? The war he's talking about is the war of Yetzer Hara versus Yetzer Tov. Now, for those of you, again, in Tanya, learning with me, we just talked about this last night. I'm not talking about that. Nefesh Behamit, Nefesh Elokit. Not talking about that. Right now, specifically the war of the Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov. The Yetzer Hara wants us to do something, right? It says, "V'lo tatur achrei levavchem achrei einechem." The Lev wants, the eye see, the heart desires, and then we do something about it. So this guy sees this woman, and he wants her. It doesn't have to be war. It doesn't have to be battle. It doesn't have to be in captivity. We're talking about the war of the Yetzer Hara. He sees something that he wants, food, portion of a guy who wants this woman, whatever it might be, this fancy schmancy thing he just has to have because all the kids on the block have it. But then picture it, as it were, what it's going to look like 50 years from now, or what it's going to be like. Like, imagine I was the coolest guy, I was one of the first people to have, I had to make a decision, was going to buy a Betamax or a VHS player. It was still, both were available, and I wasn't sure which one I was going to buy. And I talked to the guy who owned the store. If you remember the store, Minnesota Fats on Lincoln. Anyways, so the owner, he said, look, it probably is going to go the way of the VHS, and Beta is going to go and not going to continue. So it's okay, we'll take a chance. So who knows, a few $100s. I felt like so cool. I had this new technology with a wired remote, I'll have you know, not wireless. And okay, now imagine my coming to you and saying, I am so cool. You want to come over and watch some VHS movies on my VHS players? Like, that's not so cool anymore. Okay, maybe now it's an antique. I used to have, before I met Ali, an Atari game. That was like one of the first games you could buy, but that wasn't a big machine. Unfortunately, just sold it for a few bucks. Moron. Anyways, but no, if you, this woman, what's she going to look in 50 years from now? What's this man going to look like in 50 years from now? You'll still be beautiful to your spouse. Bezrat Hashem. But what you're falling in love with, or what you're not falling in love with, you're desiring right now. It's not a matter of love. It's what you want. That steak that's sitting there that looks so great right now, you know, what's it going to look like tomorrow morning when it's leftovers? It's not going to taste the same even. I like cholent. I don't mind. I can eat cholent every night. It still doesn't taste, yeah, look at that face. I don't, it doesn't taste the same on a Tuesday night that it does Shabbat when it's first, you know, eaten, right? No, it's not been on the stove the entire time. It's like, no, yesh gul. And that's what this is really about. The beginning of Parshat Kitet say, it's like, why does he do this? Say, okay, you want to be with her? Fine. You really have to see if you really love her, or you're just falling in love with something physical on the outside. What's going on inside? Because if you fall in love, you know, it says in Pirkei Avot, kol ahava shetluya b'davar, any love that's based on something, then when the thing is gone, the love falls away. So if you get married for love, it's great. Get married for money or looks or whatever else, to run away from home. Unfortunately, that happens. That becomes a problem. Because
she has no say in the matter.
She has say in the matter. It doesn't say that here, but she can refuse.
You're talking about the captive?
Yes. Yeah. So let's take a look. The second or third line says, Kihine. What really inclines us towards these pleasures? What is it that requires us to take action? It is this seduction via the eyes that get seduced by things that they see. They appear on the surface to look really good. It also was the cause of the very first recorded sin to be done. As the Torah itself testifies, the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was desired by the eyes. She took from the fruit and ate from it. But when it becomes clear, then that which appears to be good is truly just deception, it's elusive, and no permanence. But the evil part of it really is bad. For sure he'll be disgusted by it and won't want it at all. Okay, therefore, so it's a very simple little formula he gives us. Look at that which you want. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting food. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get married. There's nothing wrong with any of these things, as long as they're permitted, or the item itself or the person. But it's understanding those things that are really not okay for you, that you have to be extra careful about. And to tell yourself, look, it's really just fleeting. Whatever I'm going to enjoy is going to be fleeting. V'shikram, and also to understand not just that the fact that their pleasure is fleeting, but it's also false. So it'll be simple for the person to get rid of this desire. Now, maybe it's simple for him, but it's a mind game. This is very similar to what we were talking about last night in Tanya, of the concept of trying to suppress an urge for something or to completely eradicate the urge. There's a very big difference. Again, if I am an alcoholic and I suppress the urge to have a drink, the first few days, the first few months may be extremely difficult. We talked about last night the concept of what's called white knuckling in addiction recovery. Literally holding onto your chair, almost literally just, I can't take that drink. I can't shoot up. I can't, whatever it is. And the urge is there. You're just suppressing it to the point where it becomes a little bit easier. And then that urge becomes pushed down. It's still there, but it gets pushed down and it's not constantly on the forefront to the point where that urge is completely gone, which in most addictions it's not, but it gets replaced. But in theory, could get replaced with something else. And so in a sense, he's telling us a similar idea here. When we look at that which is desirable, that we want, but we start to tell ourselves, wait a minute, besides just saying to yourself, oh, saucer, doesn't work. For most people, it doesn't work. But when you take it, like if I told you, let's say I didn't drink from this, and I said, would you like a glass of water? And if you're thirsty, there's no reason that you would want to take a drink. But then I say, oh, by the way, I forgot. Someone passed me something and a tiny drop of poison fell in there, but it's nothing. It's completely batal b'shishim, even more than that. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be so frum. Take a drink. I'm a little pretty, right? Wizard of Oz. So what would you say to yourself when I gave you the glass?
Don't touch it.
But why?
Said be scared.
Be scared of what?
Poison.
The poison. Be scared of the poison. But you don't see it.
That's okay.
Okay, you don't see the poison. You know it's there. But you also know that it's such a tiny amount, it might not even hurt you. But you don't even take the chance. Okay, so in the sense that he's saying like the same thing, that when you see something that is not okay for you to have, say a married man looking at another woman who's not his wife, which God forbid I've never done in my life. And, you could say, oh, to yourself, maybe she's pretty. But then to take it to the next step of where your thoughts might go and an action a person might potentially take, that's so beyond the pale. Absolutely not. But what can stop you from that? One is you could just be perfectly moral and say, look, I'm married. It's not right. I can't do that. The other is it's usher. It's the other, I'm afraid of a punishment, whatever the thing. But bottom line is what he's telling us is understand that whatever you might think you're going to do, it's fleeting. That you're throwing away your olam. He didn't say this. You're throwing away your olam haba for 2 minutes of pleasure, for 10 minutes of pleasure, for a week of pleasure. That's what you're going to throw away your olam haba for. So if you think that way about things, whether it's food or anything else, and you try to get that into your head, he says that'll help you to acquire this concept of pre-shoot. And he gives the example of food. Let's talk about it. Let's look at the next paragraph. It's probably the best pronounced, the easiest example he says I can give. Is there anything more fleeting than food? What does that mean? I eat breakfast this morning. I'm going to eat lunch later today, Bezrat Hashem. I'll eat supper later tonight. I hope, Bezrat Hashem, that's the plan. Now, am I sitting here now while I'm teaching thinking like, wow, that was a good breakfast? No. I mean, it was nice. It was very wonderful what I had, but you want me what I had? A yogurt parfait. Yeah, yogurt with all kinds of nuts and fruit and stuff like that my wife is so wonderful and kind to make for me.
She does it.
She makes it for me. Yes. I am. Oh, I am very spoiled. Or Hashem. Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. She's 9 months older than me. So when I turn 119 in 3 months, I don't know what I'm going to do when she's not around for those last 9 months. So.
Really?
No. It's a joke, Joel. That's why I'm having her write stuff down already. Anyways, okay. So you said like this. This is similar to what I was telling you before. The length of time of the real ta'anug is the amount of time it takes to chew and swallow the food. Once it left his mouth, and it went into his stomach, it's like, that's over. It's done. I'll prove it to you. Why do you take a second bite?
The first one was so good.
First one was good, but now you want to do it again. If it was so good and it lasted that long, you would need more food, right? If you felt full, if the food was tasty enough that just like it kept rolling around in your mouth, like you can't, wow, this is fantastic. Like, what do I need to do that again for? But it's gone like that. But by the way, I love to eat. Don't get me wrong. I really do. Just when you hear something like this, like you just put it into just step away from the food and you think about the process, you really see how it's like, it really is very short window with the actual chew and draw. Yes, sitting down and seeing the plate brought to the table if you're at a restaurant, or going to a buffet and just choosing and looking at all the food, that is part of the experience. And the proof of that is, for those of you who've never been to it, it's highly recommended to go to Dialogue in the Dark in Holon, I think it is. It's Haifa?
No, it's Cholon.
It's Holon.
No, you sure?
Yeah, definitely. It's Holon. And
It's
it
in
is
the museum?
the Blind Museum.
The
Blind Museum.
It's in
Yeah.
Cholon.
So besides whatever they do, they have a restaurant where you eat, but you're completely in the dark. The waiters, the servers are either blind or visually impaired, and you have to pay. You eat completely in the dark. You pay your bill. They tell you how much it is. And so you're losing some of these senses when you eat. All you have is the aroma, and you have the taste. You don't have the visual, and you don't realize how much a part of eating that is until that's missing. So for those of you who've had Corona, or who had Corona, whatever it is, and you lost your sense of taste, not smell even, but even the sense of taste, or someone gets a really bad cold, just lose the sense of taste. You know that when you have the visual, but you might not even have the sense of smell anymore. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. Where's the joy? You eat then at that point, you eat because you have to eat. So that means that where is the joy is in the tasting of it, or the smell. But again, that's fleeting, because when that's gone, it's gone. Yeah.
You don't see too many fat blind people.
You don't see too many fat blind people.
Have you made a study of that?
That's his doctoral dissertation.
Yeah, no,
That is
I'm not sure.
deep.
Very deep. Very deep.
But obviously, I don't think most Jews really think that way, because if you go to Kiddush and some shuls, I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's see what time it is. Okay, I'm going to spend 2 minutes on that. In car, you mentioned Kiddush. Okay, there's a concept, you may have heard of this where you come from. I can't even say this word
I
out
don't even
loud.
know where it comes from.
Okay,
Food
something called groaning board Kiddush. Anybody ever heard the term?
No.
It's a real term, groaning board Kiddush. What does it refer to? That there's so much food that the table is groaning from the amount of food on the table.
It's like a 4-4 Kiddush.
What's a 4-4 Kiddush?
Fish, and then they have shallot, and then they.
Oh,
they have
wow.
all the drinks.
I think that it's interesting. There's a very big cultural difference between Israel and North America. In Israel, in North America, most shuls that are more than just a little shtibel have some kind of a kiddush at the end of the time. It could be just some cake and herring, or it could be a whole full-blown kiddush. Here, I remember I first came here, says, "Oh, what time? When's when David we get ready to go downstairs and go to kiddush? Oh, what kiddush? What's the special event this week? No, there's no kiddush. What are you talking about? Okay, fine. So deal with it. But to the extent where kiddush is taken to be, I once said in shul many years ago, when I had to address the cancer of the shul, of many shuls, of the kiddush club going out in the middle of Haftorah and drinking, and I said, we have to make a decision. Are we a makom kadosh or makom kiddush? And that kind of hit home, and I made a compromise. This is like 3 weeks from Pesach. I said, after Pesach, it's over. There's no more going out, no more grabbing a drink. The straw that broke the camel's back for me, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, which is maybe a good thing, is people who, after the laning is over, will get up and go out and sit and have a shot or 2 or 5 and a kichel or a piece of cake, and then come back. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me was when I went. Someone asked me to come into the social hall to see what was going on, and there were about 7 or 8 kids sitting there with little shot glasses of water. It was water going like this. I said, okay, that's it. Game, set, and match were over. I cannot handle this anymore. This is teaching the next generation. And for the most part, it was handled well. That we weren't dry. We had schnapps at Kiddush, but at Kiddush, not in the middle. Jews have an interesting approach to food. There's no question about it. They say that Jews, they tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat. That's the story of every Jewish holiday. and food is a very big, by the Italians also, it's a very big part of culture. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with food. But here he's trying to get us to understand that instead of food, you need food. Both are permitted. This food is permitted as long as it's kosher and you're not, and it's not basar chalav or something like that. But for us to understand that if someone wants to become more into the world of pre-shoot, not even full blown, that if they come into a Kiddush that has 7,000 different choices, that they can actually get by with 6,433 of them. I try to tell myself that. But it's true. It's very true. And once you get into that mindset, once you start to work on one area of your life and try to work on something that's easier to work on, that which is even a bigger challenge, maybe push that one down the road a little bit and try to work on something a little easier and then build towards something else. When you work on this concept of pre-shoot, you'll find it becomes a little bit easier. What's this guy say? Quitting smoking was easy. I've done it hundreds of times, right? So I don't mean it in that terms. I mean, really making some kind of an effort. Okay. Today is Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we do have class. Never mind. So that's evening. I'm tied up. Okay. Bezrat Hashem, I'll see you next Wednesday. In the meantime, have a wonderful day and week. And again, Neshamot Shev and Aliyah. Absolutely.
I've asked more than one rabbi